The Sydney Swans, they are looking to bounce back after a year that saw them fall off the top of the mountain for the first time in a good while. So with that, they brought in Charlie Curnow and they brought in, hopefully, some renewed hope for a fantastic season alongside Dean Cox at the helm once again. Now, before we jump in to the best 23 of the Sydney Swans, you can tell place is looking a little different.
We're looking a little different.
We're looking a tad different. Like it's all a bit strange compared to last time. We're in a new space, and it will also be the space that you see all of our podcasts happening this year. So get used to it, I guess. It's a new environment, but we'll get used to it more and more. And it looks fantastic. It looks a lot more lively.
We've got space. I think is the best way to put it.
Trapped in a corner. Space. But other than gloating at that, we'll keep that to the podcast.
Yeah.
Comes around on the Tuesday. With that being said, though, let's have a look at the Sydney back six to get ourselves started. The back three, we've got Dane Rampy, Tom McCartan, and Wixie, as well as Callum Mills in the back there, Jai Sarong, and Nick Blakey, one of the other, I don't know if I want to say underrated additions in Jai Sarong.
Yeah, well, Jai Sarong absolutely underrated. He's the only real change from this team from last year.
I only mention that I don't know if it's underrated because of the fact that Jai has actually kind of gotten a bit of talk in regards to his addition to the side. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what he does. I mean, him getting his opportunity in a side that is looking to hit the top four, if I'm being honest.
They also just needed someone in his position.
Yeah.
They just needed that alongside Tom McCartan.
Yeah.
For the most part, though, Nick Blakey, we know how the calibre of player he is. Sam Wicks actually had a really underrated and not talked about season last year.
Very much.
As a sort of lockdown small, coming from a small forward position. So great development there under Dean Cox. And I think... yeah, they just needed more players of talent in this backline because we saw last year, Tom McCartan, even when he went forward, there's just no one. So they just needed some new faces.
Yeah, and that was my criticism as well with their team as a whole last year was just like they are so top heavy, but not to the extent that the likes of the Dogs are that were making up for it with the fact that their high level talent also extended to the forward line.
Yeah.
Their backline problems we'll note in a future video. But for these guys, they had a similar problem. Their backline seemed to find some struggles throughout the season. Same goes with their forward line as well. But they just struggled to find those role players to fit. And it's looking better. Again, the Sarong pickup, fantastic. Turning Wixie into the player that he could be in this season. Callum Mills, obviously, he has kind of fallen out of that midfield rotation. So I almost kind of compare him to a little bit of a Rory Laird positioning going at the moment.
Positional-wise, similar.
Yeah, I think Mills... I don't want to say it's a make or break season, but he's been so quiet for so long, both for his own decisions and pure injuries as well. But Nick Blakey obviously is the big headliner of that back line. So we'll have to wait and see how this back line gels. It's got positives. That's the main thing with this back line.
It's looking better.
Exactly right.
They're two wingers. Obviously, Errol Goulden, superstar. There is rumours he might play more midfield minutes, completely full-time almost.
That was the only thing I was going to bring up. It is crazy that a player of that calibre is just so widely accepted as a winger. I would like to see him get more midfield minutes and become part of that because, I mean, the opportunities there, it's just my thinking is he kind of fits. His role is not necessarily needed in that midfield.
Again, they don't really work with it when you consider Heaney and Warner almost don't mesh together in the midfield because they're both very similar prototypes. Yeah. Goulden adding on to that, there's no defensive player in there. There's no proper ball winner. That just won't mesh. So I think him on the wing probably works well in all three of their games. Yeah. To help them get their best. And then I've got Braden Campbell as the other winger. I think Braden. This is a year he just needs to have a really solid campaign. Yep. Because he's had his moments, but for the most part, he hasn't really hit what they wanted him to. This is the year where he needs to do that.
How high was he in that draft? Because he was pretty up
top
there.
10.
Yeah,
he was top 10.
He was up there, so a lot of hopes for him. And not to say that he's necessarily not hit them, because pretty sure there's some players in that draft that aren't even playing anymore. Yeah. So he's doing his thing. He's keeping himself involved, keeping his pulse on the team, I guess, in a sense that he's keeping himself involved and playing a role alongside the great names that are in that midfield. Heaney, Warner and Rowbottom was the one you hadn't mentioned. Rowbottom, I mean, we talk about trios and finding different roles for each of those midfield rotations. Rowbottom is the one one in and under player, one notable in and under player in that side because Warner can get in there occasionally, so can Heaney, but Rowbottom's role is to get dirty.
Yeah, and obviously surrounded by Brodie Grundy as well as their ruck. He might be slightly affected by the new ruck rule changes, but I think his ability around the ground and the ability to get involved, I think, in League One play is kind of underrated.
Yeah.
And was the main reason why he was seen as the best rock with Max Gawn a few years ago.
You just can't doubt, experience as well.
Yeah,
He's going to adapt.
Yeah.
Like any of these players that we have questions on, they're going to adapt to the rules. Yeah. And when the midfield, is looking as good as it does with Sydney and the calibre of players around him, I mean, they'll be able to help him out and take some pressure off him.
Yeah, for sure. Their forward line looks very different to last year. Spearheaded by Charlie Curnow, obviously supported by Hayden McLean and Joel Amati as the other keys, but he looks to be finally by himself, essentially, in this forward line. He has the reins to do whatever he wants, and he looks fantastic.
I mean, we've seen... Well. Yeah, I was going to say, don't take too much out of it, because you brought it up previously before in other conversations. The example that we have now for Curnow in a forward setting with the Swans is against the Dogs.
Yeah.
And the Dogs' backline has kind of... been kind of notorious this off-season. Sam Darcy's been eating them alive too. Completely unrelated.
Very.
But I think everyone who's been looking at how the Dogs' backline has been shaping up knew that it was their major weak point this season. So take your Curnow performance from that one with a little grain of salt. Either way, it's just nice to see him command and have full kind of command of that forward line. Yeah. And you just hope that the players around him who are more traditional role players, like you've got your Papley Sparkplug, who's kind of that rover around the packs, can even take contested marks occasionally himself.
Yeah, it's not bad in the air.
McLean and Armadi as well.
Yeah, also gets up the ground, Papley. He gets involved in the midfield group a
exactly
little bit
right.
as well.
Yep.
And they also brought in Malcolm Rosas Jr. from the Suns, who's just really a pressure forward. That's all he needs to be.
Yeah.
Kick a goal a game and he'll do his role. As you said, role player. And there's no one better than that than James Jordan as well, considering the tagging role he does.
I was going to say, he's the one who was tagging people. Sarong is his most notable scout.
Yeah,
he was fantastic.
It was better than Sarong in that game. Didn't just quiet him, was better than him.
Yeah.
So if they need someone else alongside Rowbottom in that midfield to tag, you put him in there, you put Warner or you put Heaney forward, and it just is an easy switch in that situation. There's a lot of flexibility in this midfield and half forward line that is really pleasing for Sydney Swans fans.
I was going to say, for Swans fans, I think you've got to take a lot of positives out of the way your team is looking, not just because it's got the flash, but it's got the fleshed out roles.
Yeah.
You know what everyone's role is going to be. Obviously, last year you had to deal with a few injuries here and there that kind of messed things up a little bit as the year went on, but Tom McCartan gets to play his traditional role again.
Yeah.
You've got McLean and Armadi as your tools. You've got Curnow outright. Mm-hmm. You've got your Roses Jr. and James Jordan as your pressure forward. Papley being the spark plug and just the kind of everyman that he is on that half forward. They have their out-and-out roles, and they're playing the roles they need to play their best football.
Yeah.
And that's why I think so many people are so high on Sydney coming back around, not just because they've proven that they can do it, but everyone looks like they have the opportunity to do it now. It's not just, hope that you have to flip new things. Also, the pressure of a first-year coach, you're almost pressured to try a different game style.
Yeah.
So, he's off of a pretty successful State of Origin night coaching, Dean Cox. So we'll see how he puts that into the Sydney Swans game plan this season. Looking at the interchange, though, final things that you want to point out.
I was just going to say, for McLean and Amati, there's no real pressure for them to perform to a level that they can't.
Yeah.
So for them, it'll be a much easier year. On the bench, though, Matt Roberts, halfback flanker. You don't really have the ball use with Mills and Wicks other than Blakey, so he's one who will be able to use his ball use, his two-footed fantastic kick. Justin McInerney, he just signed a contract extension as well.
Yeah.
He will be the third winger, essentially. If Goulden plays midfield, he comes on, replaces him on the wing. Really good runner. They know what kind of player he is, hence why they re-signed him. Gone for Jake Lloyd as well. Played more as a small forward in the back half of the year, so interesting to see where he plays. Him and Sam Wicks have basically just switched flanks, which is kind of funny. And then Harry Kyle, who was from their academy, I've got in here, looks really good in pre-season. And I think when you speak of Sydney, you don't see a lot of proper athletes. Like Hawthorn, they have Josh Weddle, someone of that size.
Blakey,
yeah, but again, he's more halfback. He's locked into that. Harry Kyle can play anywhere.
Okay.
He can play in a back line if you need him to as that third or fourth tall. He can play on the wing because he's got that running capacity and he's got that size. And he can play half forward because he's got that size as well and his ability to compete. He will be a really promising piece for the future, and I think he can get some games this year.
Yeah.
And then the fifth on the bench is Logan McDonald.
Very much a make or break year for Logan McDonald. That's an understatement.
Yeah. And I'm of the belief that you want to play 4 talls, really. Dane Ramby can sort of play tall or small, and Logan McDonald, I believe, will be more of a defender this year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll wait and see just to have a look because, just off a rough 24, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That he
didn't even play last
exactly
year.
25. He couldn't get on the pitch, but. That all being said, a few notable names. Max King was one that I always got talked about or got told about in the lead up to the draft, but he just kept falling and falling.
Yeah.
Was it injuries that did it, or was it just poor performance?
It was poor performance in the second half of the year. Started really strong and then slowly faded away. Taylor Adams as well, missing out. I think if a Rowbottom or a Lloyd potentially get injured, he can easily come in. Even if you don't want to tag on James Jordan, he can come in because he's clearly more talented.
Yep, and another one, Jev Philippou. And I think he'll get a run. I think he will get a run.
I could see it. Yeah,
I think
if a Papley or something gets injured.
Exactly right. Yeah, there's a role in there for him. That's the good thing for him. We'll wait and see whether he gets that debut. But lots to look forward to for Sydney in 2026. So let us know what you think about Sydney's squad coming into the new season. Of course, they've just come off their first match, so let us know how do you reckon they looked. But if you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.